Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I want to talk about the amazing announcement of Blackmagic's new cinema camera. It's the PYXIS 6K cinema camera. Not only do I want to talk about it, but most honestly, I want to talk about the hard truth about this camera and why it honestly reminds me of the Lumix S5 Mark II X. Let's get into it. So what I've done is I have put together a little comparison sheet with the Lumix S5 Mark II X alongside the PYXIS 6K cinema camera, and I've started to notice some very similar key features and specs that both these cameras have that make them almost the same. But no one wants to talk about it except me right here. As many of you know, I have been using the Lumix S5 Mark II camera since it's been released. I'm using it now to record this video. I've used it on my short film projects, and I've used it on client production commercial projects. So I'm very well versed on what that camera can do, and as well as what the Lumix S5 Mark II X can do. So let's get into it. But before we do, I do want to let you know I'm not here to poo-poo on the parade for Blackmagic's PYXIS 6K. Actually, I'm very excited for it because of what it delivers as well as the price point it's offering for such an amazing camera. It's very enticing. I love the fact that it comes in L mount as well, because you know they are part of the L mount alliance. I also love the fact that they also offer EF and PL mounts for that camera. There's so many great things to talk about it. It truly is a fantastic release, but I do want to share with everyone, considering their first real dedicated cinema camera and trying to get the most bang for their buck, that's what really I'm trying to get at. So let's get to it. Okay, so you can see right here, I put together a chart of the basic features that we all look for in a cinema camera. I do want to let you know that there are some key little features that that one camera has that the other doesn't. I didn't want to get into the weeds and the dirt. I want to keep it very generic, basic, and get right to the point on how similar both these cameras are. So first off, sensor. They're both full frame sensor, and I know that the Lumix S5 Mark II X doesn't have a low pass filter. I believe the Blackmagic does. But look, the sensor size is virtually the same, both full frame. Okay, we have autofocus right here, which is both a phase hybrid autofocus. So if you're getting the L mount, you're going to be able to get this and use this. Not all lenses are able to use autofocus. It says it clearly on their website, but as you can see here, it does deliver phase hybrid autofocus. Now, we have video. We have obviously 6K at 36 frames a second is the max for the Blackmagic, and Lumix S5 Mark II X gives you 6K 30 frames a second. So not far off at all. Most of you will not notice a difference, quite honestly. ProRes. Obviously Blackmagic is not going to do ProRes because they have Blackmagic RAW. So with all that said, Lumix S5 Mark II X does produce ProRes RAW video. Okay, now Blackmagic RAW files. Of course, Blackmagic is going to deliver that internally, and the Lumix S5 Mark II does as well, but externally over an HDMI. So it does record 12-bit, both cameras, obviously in Blackmagic RAW internally and over the HDMI for the Lumix S5 Mark II. Let's say to an Atomos. They both are open gate. So that is a huge plus and a huge win for both. Lumix has been doing open gate for quite some time. I think even the GH5, but for sure the GH6 has it. The Lumix S5 Mark II and the X has it. The S1H has it, and I believe the G9 is Mark II has it as well. So they've been doing open gate. Being that Blackmagic and Lumix, and they're all part of this alliance, I'm not surprised so far. You're seeing a lot of similarity between the two cameras. Both have dual native ISO. They're both a little different in terms of when the two circuits come into play, when the base ISO compared to when the second circuit activates, but they both have dual native ISO. That's the most important part. Now, in terms of dynamic range, both are about the same. 13 stops and 14 plus-ish stops for the Lumix S5 Mark II X. So you can see clearly, very similar. Slow-mo. Both have slow-mo. Guess what? Both at 1080p. If you want that 120 frames, 120 frames, and they both crop at 4K 60. It's as if they're doing the same thing. Okay. Card slots. Here you're going to see a significant difference. You have two CF Express Type B, and it allows you to record directly onto USB hard drive. Now, Lumix S5 Mark II X allows you to record directly onto a USB external hard drive as well, but internally, it's two SD cards at UHS 2 cards. UHS 2 cards. Anyway, so of course, I'd rather have CF Express Type B if possible, but I've never had an issue with these cards, with my SD cards so far. But of course, I like the reliability of CF Express Type B. Then we have the back screen. They have a huge 4-inch, looks like a very beautiful display on the side of the Blackmagic PYXIS 6K camera box. And then here they have their flip free angle tilt screen, which I enjoy. And when you flip it out, you can also put it next to your V-mount battery, which I've shown in previous videos, and still get access to all of your menu. So, but it is a 3-inch screen. Okay, IBIS. I didn't see anywhere about IBIS for the Blackmagic PYXIS 6K. I looked everywhere. I looked on their website. I looked everywhere, quite honestly. I couldn't find anything, so I don't want to say it doesn't. But the Lumix S5 Mark II X has 6.5 stops of image stabilization right off the bat. I wouldn't be surprised if theirs was just about the same, quite honestly. I really wouldn't. They both have cloud integration. Okay, you do it to Blackmagic's cloud, or you could do it here with Frame.io as of April 21st. Okay, so you could directly back up your photos and your your JPEG and RAW photos and your video files as well to Frame.io, which is Adobe's iCloud integration software. They both deliver and produce proxies, okay? I believe it's H.264 at 8-bit. So they both deliver proxies in camera. Last thing, of course, is the price. So the PYXIS is giving us all this amazing features for $29.99 basically, and then Lumix S5 Mark II X is $19.97, okay, or $19.99, you know, give or take. These are both body only prices. With that said, as I mentioned earlier in the video, there are some minor but yet major differences in between the two in terms of specific features, video functions, like the Blackmagic PYXIS has false colors. I wish the hell that all my Lumix cameras had false colors. They both have zebra lines and histogram and everything else like that. But one thing that Lumix does have that Blackmagic doesn't have is their active IS. They have two active modes in which it's basically your image stabilization on steroids. And there's two modes, one for actual moving when you're moving, and then also one is for when you're standing still. So it acts as if you're basically on a monopod. Both work extremely well to counteract handshake when you're hand-holding your camera for your shots. So that's one thing that they have that the other camera doesn't. One thing I like about the Blackmagic is that they have the mini XLR cable jack built into the camera. That would be really sweet to have, but obviously being that the Lumix S5 Mark II X is a more of a mirrorless body form, then clearly they're not going to have that. But you can get their XLR adapter and stick it on top of the hot shoe, and then therefore now you have two full-size XLR jacks to work with. Another thing is you have SDI jack inside of the Blackmagic. Obviously that is a huge plus. They have a power DC port built into the Blackmagic as well, which is really cool. I really like. For the Lumix S5 Mark II, you have the USB-C, in which you could power through a DC plug at the end of it, so that you could keep the power going consistently in the Lumix S5 Mark II. So there's like little nuances. The one thing I wish that the Blackmagic had was a built-in, or at least an adapter for a V-mount battery. I think that would have been really a great touch. There's like little nuances that make them both different, but ultimately spec-wise, they're incredibly similar. If they're not twins, they're definitely first cousins. The reason why I brought this up in the first place is not to say, hey, this camera, it really isn't doing anything really brand new. We know it's not, because it's basically taking a lot of specs from their original full K 6K cinema camera and putting it in a box form. Got it. But if you're looking for a camera to deliver this kind of punch, I just want to show you another fantastic option in which you will not lose in terms of resolution, performance, dynamic range, by going with the Lumix camera and still keeping the L mount. And if you just feel like you just absolutely love Blackmagic, go for it. There is a price difference, as you can see, almost $1,000 price difference for body only. But outside of that, they're really, in terms of delivery, will be the same. Really, the same. You put them both together or next to each other, I could almost guarantee you won't notice a difference, and your clients won't either. If you're looking to save a few bucks, go with that Lumix S5 Mark II X. You will be just fine. They're both cloud integrated. The one thing about the Lumix S5 Mark II X is that you can actually stream live directly from the camera. That's a phenomenal option too. So if you want to do live streaming, especially on the go, you can do that with the camera. With all that said, I'm going to leave links to these products down below in the description section for you to check out. If you have any comments, do you feel like I'm poo-pooing? Cool, just let me know down below. If you actually want to admit that these two cameras are virtually identical, feel free to smash that like as well and let me know down below. So if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more, please hit that bell, that like, that share, and of course hit the hit that bell again to get notifications for my upcoming content. I'm Robert Silver, and until next time, keep shooting and stay creative.